So, what we've prepared here for everyone today is an informational presentation based on the need for housing. So we all know there's been considerable pressure. There's a housing need. Local businesses have expressed concern that's impacting their business growth. We've got local and nationwide media attention about this hole in the housing market that and trying to bring in employees and grow Thief River Falls, and generally just a lack of housing. So the city's been working very, very hard on this particular need, and you can see some of the fruits of our labor with the apartment complexes that are going up this year, that have gone up this year, as well as some of our initiatives in purchasing property, real property for development on West First Street. And so a lot of those particular projects or developments have been focused on multifamily housing or apartments. And so this component is single-family housing that the city's been working on for about now, really driving hard for about the last 8 months. And so what I'm presenting here today is a culmination of those efforts. And the project we're calling it's called Building a Better Neighborhood. And so again, this is a single-family housing that's directed toward the need for workforce employees. And so this is a partnership between Thief River Falls and a couple other entities. The Greater Minnesota Housing Fund is one of them. So the Greater Minnesota Housing Fund is a nonprofit entity. It's funded primarily by the Knight Foundation, which has been created by 3M as a nonprofit source for funds. And so primarily their focus is on communities like Thief River to develop housing. So communities like Roseau, Itasca, Grand Rapids, even as far as Duluth, the Greater Minnesota Housing Fund empowers communities like Thief River to develop housings for the needs just like we have. There's another entity we've been working with called the Minnesota Housing Partnership, and now they're a federally funded, nonprofit, and they've initiated what's called the Housing Institute. Some of you might recall we've been going and attending Housing Institute meetings in Bemidji. That's giving us tool sets, connecting us with developers, and so on and so forth, through the TRF Housing Task Force. So these two entities we've been working with, as well as James Hassel from Homeark. Now, James Hassel's been functioning as basically an industry expert. He's been bringing in his knowledge. He has over 20 years of experience in the housing industry. And so he's bringing in costing, understanding development times, understanding what's available out in the market, and how fast we can bring product to the market. So that's his function in terms of being a member of this project. And then we have Mark Borseth, the Community Services Director, Larry Cruz, the City Administrator, and myself that are also involved from the city side on this particular project. So we all know there's a housing need in Thief River Falls. Well, how did we identify what exactly is this housing need? And it's through these two recent housing and market studies that were performed. One was in February 2012, and then another one that was performed at the very end of 2013, which was primarily a market study, trying to understand what the market is, what they can support, what product they can afford. And we had over 800 people respond to that housing survey in the end of 2013. So we know there's this housing, and we've identified the need. So who are the people, or who is the market that needs this? So we've identified that through these two studies. It's primarily the workforce. They make this level of income between $15,000 and $75,000 a year. That's the majority of people. They also commute. There's a significant percentage that commutes right now, and their age group is 18 to 44. So we're not talking about senior housing or retirement housing. We're talking about workforce, people actually in the workforce working right now, 70% of those people. That's what the market is. And so we identified that there's a housing need. We identified who the market is. Now, what is the product that that market can support or sustain? That's what's come out of these surveys. So we understand that they can afford, these people can afford generally between $400 and $600 a month for a home payment. They want single family ownership. 84% of them want single family over apartments. 3 bedrooms, new construction, attached garage, and a basement. So we've identified this target through the studies, through surveying the community, through other community members such as realtors and local businesses, so on and so forth. So we feel we have a really good handle on what this market is and that we can deliver the product to the market. So how do we get there? How do we hit this target that we've identified through the workforce, understanding their salaries, understanding what they've budgeted for an annual, monthly, a monthly payment on their home? We get there through smaller footprints. There's smaller finished spaces between 700 and 1,000 square feet. There's smaller lots. So these are smaller than typical lot sizes. These are 50 to 60 foot wide lots. And we have to establish an expansion, a room to grow through unfinished space. So primarily through an unfinished basement. That way we can capitalize, we can basically build for half the finished cost with an unfinished basement. And we use efficient building strategies. That means using less material, so these homes are smaller, so you get less cost. Manufacturing techniques, so using standard layouts, standard work, volume purchasing, so working through a manufacturing process, not one-off stick-built homes, working through a manufacturing process. A manufacturer will buy a large amount of material in quantity, knowing they're going to build a large amount of homes, and so they get better leverage on their pricing on the material, so that brings the price down. Again, working through a manufacturer, you get lower labor rates, and they can work all season long, not just through the summer months or through this, what we call the typical construction season. They can work all through the winter. Another component on how we get there, how we get this price down, is to eliminate waste and middlemen. So just eliminate contractors through manufacturing. You come off the production line with a finished product for the most part. You don't have multiple contractors, just generally one or two contractors that come in and actually install the home on the site. And just basically minimize the amount of people making a profit in this particular project. So in the end, though, just to understand what this is that we're not trying to develop or sell a home or just a house, a product. What we're doing is we're developing a neighborhood. We're developing a community. And so this has got to be aesthetically pleasing to the buyer. So the idea is you present a community feel, you have color and layout choices, you have green spaces within this neighborhood. It's very pedestrian friendly. You might have a park, you might have some walking trails, you've got sidewalks. And so again, this is a person or a product that the market is asking for. We're not just selling a home, or we're not just providing a home to the community, we're providing a neighborhood. So this is entirely a feel and aesthetically pleasing project that we're presenting here. So through this project, we've worked again with these entities like the Greater Minnesota Housing Fund and Minnesota Housing Partnership, who have done similar projects like this in the past with other communities. And so they have actually home designs that fit these smaller layouts, that fit these more efficient price points. And using those layouts, so these are actual homes that have been built in the past that are again efficient, greener, smaller, lower price points. We have actual pricing that came from a manufacturer for these homes. And so these are our 5 homes that we put together in this particular project. And you can see these are the price points for the home itself, just the home itself. That doesn't include delivery, doesn't include setup of the home, foundation, land, utilities, driveway, so on and so forth. So you can see though the pricing is very, very modest, fairly reasonable if you exclude all those other costs. Now this is a page that represents all the other costs for the most part that are included in bringing the home into the site, doing the setup, putting a basement in, so on and so forth. And these estimates are based on working with, again, with realtors, with people in the housing industry, working with Mark Borseth, our community development director, who's very familiar with some of these infrastructure costs. And so you can see we're coming right in at that target that we talked about in terms of what a person can afford with that $600 or so a month budget for a single family home. This is a single story home with an unfinished basement and 2 finished bedrooms upstairs, and then again there's room for 2 more bedrooms downstairs. So the approximate size of this home is about 2,000 square feet total, with about 987 square feet finished on the first story, and we're coming in at about $131,000 with a 5% incidental. Now this is a number that we can just take to the bank and say this is a guaranteed price, but we believe this is within about 10% of what the actual price of the home could be. So we're fairly confident in this. We're fairly excited about how we can get there using these techniques we've just presented. So using these real layouts that I just showed, those 5 homes with those prices, we put together an actual real site with those homes laid into them. And so this is a true graphic representation of a real-time real estate site here in Thief River Falls. And you can see there's homes laid out here. There's about 29 homes laid into this site. And this gives you the visual kind of aesthetic feel of what it would look like, how the homes are spaced, the lot sizes, the trees, so on and so forth. This is where the site is located, just south of Walmart. So we got this going on here.
Dale, so this 131,000, that's for a total of only 987 square feet living space. So that's a 2-bedroom home.
That's 987 finished. With another with the basement underneath, so it effectively doubles your square footage.
Okay.
So you're looking at about 18 to 1900 square feet.
So 131, like straight out of the gate, it's 2 bedrooms, a living room, a dining room, a kitchen, and a 2-car garage.
That's right.
Okay.
With an unfinished basement. Right. So this is the real site. You can see in the green right there. It's off of Greenwood. This is just another aerial view of the site. Here's the green space. We're talking about presenting that neighborhood, like pedestrian-friendly feel, a playground, and then a walking trail to the wooded area. If you look closely here, you can see the homes all have sidewalks in front of the homes there generally. You can see the trees, the spacing. You can see you're establishing a very aesthetically pleasing neighborhood feel. Just more aerial views of the property. If you look here just to the what would be the let's see here, the east, yeah. Southeast, you can see there's more land that has been platted for residential housing, potential residential housing. So this fits within the zoning or the area, this type of residential single-family homes. Here's just a layout of what the lots are in terms of their width and how they're efficiently laid out. Again, 50 to 60 foot wide lots compared to 120 to 150 foot wide lots. Just some more renderings of the site. Gives you an idea of what the playground would look like, the scale, the homes, the structures, in terms of architecture. We got a mixed bag. You know, you have single story homes and split level 2-story homes mixed in. I'll finish and then we'll just go to discussion and questions at the end here. Just some more renderings of the site. So where we're at with the culmination of this project, where we're at, in order for us to move forward, we need to obtain site control. So what does that mean, and why do we need to obtain site control? We need to obtain site control in order to move forward with funding through the Minnesota Finance Agency, through the state agency that provides funding for projects such like this. We have to obtain site control for us to even consider an application to fund a project like this nature. So what does that mean? It simply means that we need to verify land, infrastructure, and construction costs and enter into an option to purchase with the seller. So if we want to move forward with this project, we've got to start the negotiation process with the seller and actually have just a written agreement to have a negotiation or an option to purchase. Now, this is not an agreement to purchase. It's just an option for us to purchase. And so we can back out of this if we don't come to the terms that we agreed to it through negotiation. But that's where we're at. Through this, we also want to gauge community support. We've talked about having a housing booth in order to present this to the public, to gauge their support, and gauge the market, whether or not they're interested. And of course, through the next steps to finally close on the project, close on the site through construction financing, bidding, install infrastructure, so on and so forth. But that's where we're at in terms of single-family housing in Thief River Falls. Here's a great opportunity for us to meet the need that exists within the market. But in order for us to move forward, we've got to have that site control. And so that's what we're proposing, we're requesting. This was presented in the Public Works Committee. Through that committee, there was a recommendation to move forward with council action on obtaining site control. But I just want to put this out there now and present it for the council and just gauge interest and get a feel or get some discussion going on whether or not we should pursue or continue to move forward with this particular project, knowing that the need that exists here at Thief River Falls for housing. So I'll just open it up for conversation, for discussion. You had some questions, Rachel?